Welcome to the Mary Dee Show. I'm your host, Mary Dee, here to be your guide as we extract wisdom and life lessons from top CEOs, thought leaders, artists, spiritual luminaries, and wellness experts. My intention is to bring you value in every show that sparks an idea, helps you break a limiting belief, or creates thoughts that up-level your life so that you can know from the deepest depths of your soul that everything you want is available to you and that abundance is your birthright. In 2018, I healed from breast cancer, holistically after surgery, without the use of chemotherapy or pharmaceuticals. I love biohacking and plant medicine and exploring spirituality and what it means to be in relationship with Source so that we can feel whole and complete no matter what life throws at us. My specialty in the business world is strategy and leadership, and my gift to each of you is my ability to listen so that I can help others see themselves. In each episode, I want to sprinkle you with some hope dust, tickle your funny bone, and inspire you to find your inner roar. Get ready to live your most purposeful and joy-filled life now, and enjoy the show. Today, my guest on the Mary Dee Show is Kisma. Once an international classic musician who literally got up in the middle of her career to follow a spiritual calling she had deep inside of her. Today, she's a spiritual luminary and a prosperity coach. Kisma and I live like 5 miles away from each other, but we had to go all the way to the south of France to sit next to each other at a dinner to figure out that we were neighbors. And we've been friends ever since. I have come to really love and appreciate her heart and her level of commitment to her personal and spiritual growth. For more about Kisma, head over to https://www.kismaawake.com, and you can join her at her next event in San Diego, California, called Prosperity Code Live, taking place March 10th through 12th. Hope to see you there.
One night during a concert, I think it was a Beethoven symphony, I'm on stage, it's probably the second movement, I'm playing second flute and I'm counting rests, and I hear that same voice saying, "You're done. It's time to go." And I was sort of like, okay, the first flute wasn't talking to me. Like, was it the clarinets? Was someone like whispering? Was someone trying to trip me up? And I just had this knowing, it's like, okay, that's it. Now I stayed on stage, like I played the rest of the concert and I finished the season, but I trusted the voice. And Zoe and I moved back to the States and I opened a yoga studio. Yoga was a way, it was the physical practice into the philosophy of Vedanta, which is the foundation of my coaching practice. And I had a beautiful studio in Grosse Pointe, Michigan for 5 or 6 years. And that led me to going to India every single year to study with Swami Parthasarathy. And over time, Zoe graduated high school. She moved to Abu Dhabi to go to NYU Abu Dhabi. And Nick and I were like, maybe we should go to San Diego. And we had worked with Ted McGrath, who I think you know, and we had been out there. And I was like, let's go. The studio, I hit a place where I couldn't grow anymore. It was part of a bigger corporation. And I just kind of felt like raising my right leg up and stepping forward. If that's all I was going to teach for the rest of my life, I wasn't going to be happy. So that was it. We came out to California. I think maybe it's been about 11 years. I'm not so great with time. I sort of get lost in it all. But basically, I just listened and took the leap.
I love that. I feel like this year for me, that showed up for me in a plant ceremony recently where listen was my word. And that's been my word for this year. And interestingly enough, my gene keys along with my human design says that is actually my gift, is in listening. And so I was like, ooh, I'm really going to lean into that this year. And I want to be able to use listening as the skill of what are the things that I'm hearing, but also what are the words that aren't being said in between sentences or in between things that are happening.
The highest teachings always say the true self is found in the silence. Even in between the mantra Om, the whole idea of chanting is you pay attention to that sliver of sound. You might just hear your true self, the God spark, the whatever that is indescribable within us. And I do talk to my clients a lot in my group, the Ashram, that a lot of people are afraid to sit with themselves because the world is telling us to speed up. Social media is sending us algorithms to go faster and faster. We have to really take a stand against that and create this silence, even if it's for 3 minutes a day, because I think once someone gets used to 3 minutes, they're like, give me another minute, give me a few more seconds. let me stay here. And then they start to hear, or they feel, or they calm down, or they know, or they trust, whatever it is. Something good happens once we're willing to be in that place.
Yes, so calming on the nervous system for people that
Mhm.
if you're listening today and this is news to you and you're going 5,000 miles an hour, the act of literally just stopping, taking a few deep
Mhm.
breaths, even if it's only for a few seconds, but ideally if you could sit there and do that for minutes, it will bring
Yeah.
so much peace to your day in a way that will literally shift the energy around you in some beautiful
Mhm.
ways. And I love to call that a state change. Right.
Yeah.
So it's coming
Mhm.
anytime I'm in a little bit of a funk or things feel weird or maybe a call was awkward. It's like, how can I reset? And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful way to do it, is to actually
Yeah.
just stop and breathe. And I think as we all work out our journey, we figure out what is the best pit stop for us along the way. Is it a
Yeah.
meditation? Some people are like, oh, meditation, I can't be quiet that long. It just doesn't feel good. I'm like, then don't do a quiet meditation.
Yeah.
Go
Right.
take a walking meditation, go
Mhm.
take a screaming meditation, go,
Mhm.
do whatever works for you, but know that there are modalities out there. There's tapping. Gosh, there's so many different modalities these days. And
Mhm.
having the practice of yoga and knowing that even in yoga, there's many different kinds of yoga practices. I think that's the other thing that a lot of people aren't fully aware of
Yeah.
sometimes, of knowing like there's fast yoga and then there's slow
Yeah.
yoga, there's hot yoga, there's not hot yoga.
Right. There's yin yoga. I think it's so important, because we can start to hear something attach and then think we have to do something in a certain way. And one of the stunning things that when I traveled to India, really my first trip there, I learned something very intense about just who I was and karma, but also about meditation. And, I teach meditation. I've guided meditations. I love it. Yet when we go to the absolute, and I love going to the absolute because I just feel like it's a bit of a metric. Like if we really know the highest standard, we can at least face forward, right? We can
Mm,
we can lead our direction. And meditation is actually not a practice, it's an arrival. The
mm,
practice comes in letting go of desires that might not be good for us. We can have desires, but it's like walking up the ladder. You replace a lower desire with a higher. The practice is living in love and harmony with our fellow beings and ourselves. So the more that we practice calming down, the meditative mind, you arrive.
mm.
And I think it's important to share that because you're right. Most people, especially if they're active in nature, active in thought, it's not fair to yourself to someone say, well, sit and be quiet for, 30 minutes. Like you said, take a walk, be in nature, go for a drive, go for a run, something that allows this conditioned mind to move over. So the superconscious mind or the intuitive mind has a chance to be present.
Mhm.
And once that occurs, I think we know we're facing the right direction.
So good. So good. So let me ask you this question, which is, you're someone who works in the spiritual realm, also in this world. If you're a super logical person, then
Mhm.
you think in terms of facts and figures and absolutes. And I feel like there's a shift that needs to happen or has to happen to truly tap in. So how
Mm.
would you, what advice do you have for those folks that are like, I need some absolute concrete things, but
Mhm.
also they recognize that there is source. They want to tap into source. How do people hear God, Kisma? That's really the question. How do we hear God?
That's well, it's the like holy grail, right? I think it starts with it just might be possible. Like I do that with my clients all the time. You don't have to like fully accept that there's this supreme power. And I believe in, the Atman to the Brahman. I believe God is within all of us. And I believe that when we see God in all things and we reach that state, then we're there. So I don't believe that there's a God that we fear or we have
Mm,
to obey. There's divine love, there's this incredible energy. But for somebody who's very logical minded, I think it's really important to look at cause and effect, the overarching law of the universe. And you can see it in the laboratory, you can see it in science, you can see it in math, but every cause will have an effect and every effect will have a cause. So start with your life. Just be really bold and go out and find a stranger and start yelling at them. you're the cause, you're yelling at somebody, what are you going to get in return? It's so blatant, it's so obvious. And we know that. So then go and get a coffee and raise your eyebrows and smile at the person serving you. What is the effect back? I like to be playful and I like to be in the field because I also do a lot of body language and linguistics. And I love to watch how people are going from their mammalian brain and seeing a part of us physically that maybe they don't realize they're responding to. And the frequency is the science, like attracts like. We can see that in so many ways. And of course, certain things repel. But I just love to be the experiment. I love for people to test it. When you're willing to put your hand on your heart and have a difficult conversation, I guarantee that conversation will be easier because you're affecting what's called the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the first chakra that formulates in the womb, like the organ is the first organ that starts to take shape. So energy is real. We see it everywhere. I think it's for a logical people to say, you don't need to sit and meditate. You don't need to chant. You don't need to do the woo, but try, because this is about mastering your life. I mean, life is an art and most people have not been taught how to live it. So when you start to find these ways of being that make life easier and happier, it's an easy conversion. I mean, I think it's why, I have some clients that are closing multi-million dollar deals and they're like, hey, I used that thing you taught me. It was so easy. I'm like, yep, good.
Yes.
It's applicable. We are the cause. And we're looking into a mirror and we can't rip the mirror off the wall and change it, but we can continue to change this.
So good. So good. Yes. I am in a full yes on that one. I find that the advice I like to give people is, look, if you go to the mountain and it's just you and God, at the end of the day, if you cut out all the noise around you and what other people have told you, what other beliefs have been instilled in you, whatever beliefs you've picked up along the way, and you sit with those things and you go, what is actually true for me? Right. And for many of us, we can actually feel in our body. We can feel in our body what is true for us. And being able to get really honest with yourself can also be very confronting because especially if you were raised in a particular religion or a particular practice of a regiment, and suddenly you're like, oh, I don't necessarily believe this anymore, or maybe this particular thing is not true for me. Then that can be very confronting because you've held on to this foundational belief that this is a thing, and now it's being challenged, and now you're coming into your own truth, and you're like, okay, am I going to hold staunchly to this, or am I going to let it go? And I think that is a fascinating place to be, but also it is part of taking personal responsibility and full ownership over your life, right? Being the CEO of your life and even your spirituality, and saying, how do I come to my relationship with Source and my knowing and knowing that, yeah, God exists in me. And so what am I really listening to? Am I listening to the input from other people and some noise, or am I feeling this inside? Speaking those gratitudes, falling asleep to those gratitudes, and then waking up knowing it's a new day and it's a new start. So it's beautiful advice. Thank you, my friend.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us on today's show. I hope that today's session inspires you to live an aligned life where you get to take complete ownership of your feelings and decisions to live in your truth. You can connect with me at www.marydee.com. That's MARYDEE.com. Follow and like us at Facebook or Instagram at the Mary Dee. That's the THE Mary Dee, MARYDEE.